All right, good morning, everyone. So today we'll continue our discussion about method of proofs. And last time we already seen several ways on how to prove different statements depending on how they were phrased, right? So meron tayong mga proofs of existence na kailangan nating i-interpret kung ano yung gustong sabihin ng theorem for us to devise the right attack for the proof, right? And then tiningnan natin, we also look at proofs by how to prove conditional statements. You have P implying Q. So sabi natin the straightforward ways to use a direct approach wherein we will assume P and try to use either previously established results or definitions in order to come up with a conclusion Q. Kaya lang we also noted na minsan mahirap yung direct route from P towards Q. So minsan tinitingnan natin yung contraposition o yung contrapositive ng statement. That means if we are trying to prove P implies Q, pwede ngang i-prove natin na yung equivalent statement obtained using transposition on this conditional statement, namely magiging not Q implying not P siya. And in most instances or in some instances, mas madali na i-assume yung not Q tapos ipakita yung not P. And which is perfectly fine because these two guys are equivalent to each other. All right. Paano mas spot kagad right from the get-go kung anong method of proof ang gagamitin? Unfortunately, I cannot tell you how kasi I always go to play it by my ears. Halimbawa, given yung statement, saka pala ako magde-decide kung ano yung mas madali. Usually, I'll try the direct approach first or the direct proof first. Assume ko si P, pakita ko si Q. Kaya lang kapag hindi ko talaga siya mapakita or hindi ako maka-move from P towards another valid proposition, then try ko yung contraposition. Okay? Sometimes they are both easy. Sometimes the contrapositive is much easier than P implying Q, as we have seen in a couple of examples last week. All right. Kaya lang minsan posible rin na parehas silang mahirap. So for today, we'll introduce another method of proof, which is basically another powerful tool that you can add to your repertoire. Sabi nga ni Hardy, this kind of proof, which is the proof by contradiction, is a far finer gambit than any chess gambit. Kung naglalaro kayo ng chess, siguro sanay kayo sa Queen's Gambit o narinig niya term, wherein we sacrifice one of our pieces. The most ultimate sacrifice or gambit in chess, some people say is the Queen's Gambit, wherein you sacrifice or you let your opponent capture your queen, which is in terms of movement the most powerful in chess, right? Pero sabi ni Hardy, ang proof by contradiction is much more than that. Wherein ang sinasacrifice ng isang mathematician is the entire game. So he said that the chess player may offer the sacrifice of a pawn or even a piece, but the mathematician offers the game. Bakit? Ano yung implication? No? Ano yung makukuha natin mula dun sa statement ni Hardy? So parang ginigive up na natin yung gusto natin i-prove. And that is a sacrifice needed in order to obtain the right, in order to obtain a valid proof for our statement. So ginagawa natin, kunwari mali. Okay, i-assume natin na mali yung gusto nating i-prove. And from that supposition, gusto nating ipakita na, hold a minute, merong magiging mali dun sa mathematics that we know. All right? Or we will arrive with a contradiction or an absurdity or something that cannot be false in our arguments. Okay? So in essence, what the proof by contradiction does ay i-assume natin na mali yung gusto nating i-prove o yung conclusion, i-assume natin na mali. So if we are proving P implies Q, we will assume that not Q is true. Okay? Kunwari mali yung gusto nating i-prove. So we will put as a premise yung negation ng conclusion. And then from that, we'll use previously proven facts, we'll use valid implications from not Q, and hopefully arrive at a contradiction. Gusto nating ipakita na kapag kamali yung theorem na gusto nating i-prove, or when we have false conclusion then we will arrive with something contradictory to a previously known fact. Okay, so dapat makahanap tayo ng mali. The drawback is hindi natin alam kung ano yung hinahanap natin na mali, but we will be going on using valid steps, valid arguments, hahanap tayo ng butas. Ano yung mako-contradict na alam natin to be true? Which will tell us na, oh, kung mali yung gusto kong i-prove, magkakaroon ako ng problema sa problema that will contradict previously known facts. So hindi pwedeng maging mali yung theorem ko, so dapat tama yung theorem. So dahil hindi pwedeng mag-not Q, dapat totoo si Q. Right? So that's the basic idea about the proof of contradiction. First, we assume the negation of the conclusion, meaning we will assume that the theorem is false. And then we'll try to deduce a contradiction out of that. Okay? So dahil magkakaroon ng contradiction, hindi pwedeng mali yung theorem na gusto natin gawin. Okay, so let's try an example. Let's start with example 29. Okay. You can prove example 29 using a direct approach. Okay. Feeling ko ganun din siya kadali. Pero just to illustrate the proof by contradiction, let's try to prove it using that. Oh, by the way, the proof by contradiction is based on the principle of the law of excluded middle. Kung natatandaan nyo, in the review chapter, you have P or not P. And we said this is a tautology. Actually, it is called the law of excluded middle. So kung i-assume natin na hindi pwedeng false yung theorem, ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng maging not P, so therefore, dapat si P ay totoo. Yun yung sinasabi ng law of excluded middle. Kung hindi totoo, kung hindi pwedeng mali siya, so necessarily, dapat tama yung gusto natin i-prove. Right? So yun yung pinaka-foundation ng proof by contradiction. And you will see that ang ina-assume natin dito ay negation ng conclusion. So common mistake students try to use contradiction or proof by contradiction by assuming the consequence. Never in any kind of proof natin ina-assume yung conclusion. Right? Hindi tayo nag-assume ng Q. So sa proof by contradiction, ang i-assume natin ay not Q, and the goal is to show that there will be something wrong. Okay. So let's try proving 29 here on the margins. So proof. Okay, usually you can write by contradiction just to tell the reader na ang inaay ko dito ay contradiction, hindi contraposition. Oops. Okay. Now, so we are asked to prove that for any positive real number x, this inequality is true, right? So this is our P, real number C, a positive real number C, x. Ito yung Q natin. Yun yung conclusion. X over x plus 1 is less than x plus 1 over x plus 2, right? So if we'll try to use a proof by contradiction, of course, i-assume natin si P, part of the premise. Premises are always assumed to be true. So we let x be positive real number. Remember, our notation for the set of positive real numbers is R plus, okay? And then we will try to do a proof by contradiction. So we will assume not Q. So ano yung magiging negation nitong statement na to? Kaya lang nandito na siya sa word text. So kung less than yan, so negation niya greater than or equal to, right? So we will suppose for the sake of contradiction, I think I'll introduce now a brand new symbol. Yung $ sign is my symbol for suppose for the sake of contradiction, okay? So isa rin siyang marker ng paggamit ng proof of by contradiction. So if I see a $ sign there, i-assume ko na tinatry niyong gawin ay proof by contradiction. Okay? So suppose for the sake of contradiction that x over x plus 1 is greater than or equal to x plus 1 over x plus 2. Okay. And then what I'll try to do here is to do or to use some facts, okay, or to do some valid steps in order to show that there will be something wrong, okay, if we will accept this to be true, dapat makahanap tayo ng mali, right? So since this is part of our assumptions now, so ibig sabihin dapat mag-follow na, okay, pwede ako mag-multiply ng x plus 2 times x plus 1 both sides. Kasi si x plus 1 ay positive, si x plus 2 ay positive dahil si x ay positive. So pwede ako mag-multiply both sides ng x plus 1 times x plus 2 without changing the inequality, right? So if I do that on the left-hand side, x plus 1 will be canceled, so we'll be left with x times x plus 2 greater than or equal to, so sa right-hand side naman, ang matitira ay si x plus 1 times x plus 1. Okay? And then I can simplify things, and that is still a valid step, right? So I'm going to get x squared plus 2x greater than or equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1. And I say here is a contradiction. So you can say a contradiction. Okay. Clear naman na contradiction siya, no? Kasi yung x squared plus x hindi pwedeng maging mas malaki kaysa kay x squared plus 2x plus 1. Kasi, or probably if that is not yet clear, you can write another step here and say, oh, I can subtract x squared plus 2x from both sides, and we'll get 0 greater than or equal to 1, which is clearly absurd, right? Hindi pwedeng totoo yan. So, therefore, or another symbol that you can use, instead of writing a contradiction, you can use a lightning symbol. Isa siyang blitzkrieg, or para siyang Harry Potter lightning symbol. So if you see an arrow like this, it means there's a contradiction. Okay, so that's a contradiction. So therefore, our supposition is false. Hindi pwedeng maging totoo itong supposition na to. Kasi kung i-accept natin siya to be true, dapat i-accept din natin na ang 0 ay greater than or equal to 1, which we cannot do kasi alam natin na si 0 ay mas maliit kaysa kay 1. Okay? So therefore, we don't have any choice but to reject this supposition. So we'll accept the fact that x over x plus 1 is less than x plus 1 over x plus 2. And that ends the proof. Okay? So, kung nakita nyo, hindi ko talaga pinakita na totoo itong inequality na to. Ang pinakita ko ay hindi pwedeng maging false ito. Right? Dahil hindi pwede siyang maging false, then by the law of excluded middle, dapat totoo siya. Right? And that's why proof by contradiction is also known as indirect proof. Kasi hindi natin ina-attempt na ipakita na totoo yung conclusion ng theorem or ng statement na gusto natin i-prove. Ang pinuprove natin ay yung impossibility na maging false siya. At covered naman tayo kasi sa math walang gray area. A statement is always true or false. Okay? But not both and not neither. Right? Is this example making sense? Okay, thank you. I'm thinking, should we do example 30? Kasi sa example 30, ganun din naman. Siguro, yes, bilisan lang natin. Okay, proof that for every positive real number, x plus 1 over x is greater than or equal to 2. So we can write the proof. And then again, ang assumption natin, meron tayong positive real number x, so I'll get a random or an arbitrary positive real number x. Okay. Or instead of this, you can just say x be greater than 0. Understood na si x ay real number kasi ang condition lang sa kanya ay greater than 0. Right? And then we will suppose, for the sake of contradiction, the negation of the conclusion. Can anybody tell me what's the negation of the conclusion of the theorem? Yes, yun ako sino na una. Jasper Lee. I think you're...
Sir, x plus 1 over x less than 2.
Okay, so that's x plus x Less than 2. Great, thank you. Okay. And then we'll try to use some again valid steps previously unknown valid what do you call it? Valid argumentation or valid reasons in order to come up with a contradiction. Okay? So can somebody suggest ano kaya yung susunod kong gagawin? O ano yung pwede kong gawin out of this supposition? Let me see. Inosan, you have a suggestion? Inosan.
Ay, hello sir. Ay, okay na po.
Hi.
Ayaw po kasi mag-unmute kanina. Ano po, siguro po solve for the left side. So, yung x plus 1 over x.
So what do you mean solve both sides?
Po?
Ano yung ibig sabihin mo ng solve the left hand side? Ano yung
Parang
kailangan?
i-combine po yung x plus 1 over x.
Okay, thank you. So, all right, I can try that. So, I'll have x squared plus 1 over x less than 2. All right, thank you, Imisat. What's next? Rhea, may suggestion ka ba? Thank you, Imisan. What could I do next, Rhea? Baka nawala si Rhea. Let me go, or typing ba? Kung nagka-type ka, Rhea, tuloy mo lang. Let me call another one. Mary Rose. Oh, yan. Sorry, Rhea. You're trying to say something?
Ay, sorry po sir. Ako po pala. Pwede pong i-multiply yung x both sides para po mawala yung para mag-cancel po yung denominator.
Okay. And thank you, Rhea. Why am I allowed to do that? Paano ko to nakuha? Alright. Mary Rose. Bakit valid tong ginawa namin ni Rhea na ganito?
Sir, since hindi po 0 yung x or greater than 0 po yung x.
Okay, thank you, Rhea. That's correct. Because x is positive, right? So I can multiply both sides of an inequality by a positive real number and the inequality won't change. So alam natin yon na established fact na yon in math, right? And then let's see. Okay, I can subtract 2x from both sides just to make it much simple or much simpler. I'll get this less than 0, right? And that's valid again because I just subtracted 2x from both sides. And then, Gad, what do you think should I do next?
Sir, pwede po siyang maisulat po na x minus 1 squared po. Tapos, yun, since any real number, tuloy ka na po ba?
Sige. Go lang, Gad.
So, any real number naman po na raised to 2 po is greater than 0 po.
All right. Let me just...
Hindi po siya pwedeng maging negative.
Greater than or equal to 0.
So,
all right.
Hindi po siya pwedeng maging negative.
That's correct. So sabi nga ni Gad, lahat ng real, kahit anong real number, pag ni-raise natin sa power ni 2, ang sagot ay greater than or equal to 0. So there is a contradiction over here. Okay? Hindi pwede ng x minus 1 squared ay maging less than 0. And if we will insist that our supposition is right, then dapat i-accept din natin ng x minus 1 squared ay less than 0. Kasi directly nag-emanate ito mula dun sa supposition. Right? But we cannot accept this to be true kasi alam natin false yan. All right? So it will contradict one of the basic facts that we have established before. So that means we don't have any choice but to reject the supposition. So kailangan mali siya kasi otherwise guguho yung buong mathematics na alam natin. So we should accept the fact that x plus 1 over x is greater than or equal to 2. End of proof. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's how powerful proof by contradiction is. Isa siyang magandang tool, lalo na kung mahirap ipakita yung P implying Q directly or kahit gamitan ng contrapositive, mahirap pa rin siya. The only disadvantage with, again, with proof by contradiction is that we don't know what is the contradiction we are looking for. Wala tayo ditong we want to show, all right? Wala tayong specific target para may pakita. We just need to move on, go along, and try to deduce something that would be wrong. Kailangan hanapin natin yung something fishy that will follow from the false supposition. Okay? So kung makikita nyo, ibang-iba. Sa example 30, ito yung ma-meet natin na supposition, na contradiction. Sa example 29, mas simple yung nakuha nating contradiction. Okay? So yun lang, yung tanging disadvantage. So let's try, oh, there's another one here. Example 31. So example 31, pinrove niya uli yung example natin last time na kung si A squared ay even, then si A ay even. I think we have proven this last time using proof by contraposition, and everything turned out nicely. Now you can try to do a proof by contradiction here, and if you'll be doing that, so kukunin niyo yung negation ng conclusion. So this is P, then this is Q, then we will assume Q and try to come up with a contradiction. Okay? Tapos ginawa niyo yon, so inassume niya na si Q ay false, so dapat si A ay odd for the sake of contradiction. Okay? Kasama sa premises yung A squared is even. So ang premises nating pinaglalaroan ngayon ay A squared is even and A is odd. Kasi nga by contradiction yung proof. And then we'll try to get a contradiction. Dahil yung supposition si A ay odd, sinulat niya si A as 2k plus 1. And then they used 2x plus 1 as the value of A in A squared. So pinalitan niya si A ng 2k plus 1, did the expansion of 2k squared plus 2k plus 1 quantity squared, and found out that it can be written this way. And then dito nag-arise yung contradiction. Nagkaroon ng contradiction dito kasi si A squared nasulat natin in form of an odd integer. And that directly contradicts the premise. So example 31 is one example or a classic example. Dito usually nanggagaling yung contradiction. Nako-contradict natin yung premise. And the premise or the premises are always assumed to be true, whatever kind of proof you are trying to do. So ina-assume mo yung premise, dapat lagi siyang true. Okay? So, napakita dito sa example 31 na kapag ka-false si Q, dapat si A squared ay odd. Pero that is contradictory to the premise. Alright? So, yun yung nahanap niyang contradiction. Okay? So, pwedeng yung contradiction maging or magmula dun sa premise. Kaya pwede ka makarating sa isang statement na bumabangga dun sa isa sa mga premises. And that is sufficient to get a contradiction. Okay? So try to write your own proof of example 31 and then compare yours to the one in the work text para magandang exercise. But we'll try to write this very classic proof, example 32. Ito yung usually example kapag nagdi-discuss ng proof by contradiction. And this is proving that square root of 2 is irrational. So if you'll try to think of a direct approach here, medyo mahirap. Hindi pala medyo, mahirap talaga. Paano mo may papakita ng isang number ay rational? So here we want to prove P, right? Wala ka kasing mga, hindi to conditional. So gusto nating i-prove na si square root of 2 ay irrational. So what does it take for a number to be irrational? Kailangan hindi natin siya masulat as a ratio of 2 integers. And how can you prove that something cannot be written as a ratio of 2 integers? So mahirap ipakita na si square root of 2 ay irrational talaga. Dapat ma-prove mo na hindi ko siya kayang isulat as A over B, B not equal to 0, A and B are integers. So talagang mahirap. Kaya mas maganda na i-try siyang i-prove by contradiction. I-assume natin that P is false. So we'll assume the statement to be proven is false. So i-assume natin na si square root of 2 ay rational. Then we should show that there is a contradiction. Okay? Now, this is a very classic example. Maganda rin yung storya behind this theorem because the ancient Greeks, the Pythagoreans in particular, believed that all numbers are rational. So, naniniwala sila na lahat ng numbers kaya mong isulat as a ratio of two integers. And then, laging lumalabas sa computation yung square root of 2 because the Pythagoreans are the masters of measuring things using a triangle. So, kaya nga Pythagorean theorem yung tawag natin sa a squared plus b squared ay equals d squared or sa c squared, right? So, lagi nila namimit itong square root of 2 and kaya medyo sacred sa kanila yung square root of 2 and they believe that all numbers are rational. Okay? Kaya lang, there comes this guy, his name is Hippasus, alright? So siya yung nagsabi na, mali kayong mga Pythagorean kayo, ang square root of 2 ay hindi rational. And that is very blasphemous para sa mga Pythagoreans. And legend has it that Hippasus was murdered because of just saying that square root of 2 is irrational. Some legends say na siya nga ay pinatay by drowning by the Pythagoreans by just spewing the truth that square root of 2 is irrational. Okay? So, buti na lang ngayon, hindi na tayo mamumurder pag pinrove natin na si square root of 2 ay irrational. And for this proof, gagamitin natin ay proof by contradiction. Okay? Right, so let's see how it is done. And again, this is a very classic proof in math done by contradiction. Okay. So again, kasi mahirap yung direct approach. So i-try natin yung indirect approach or indirect proof. Okay. So since the theorem is asking us to prove that square root of 2 is not a rational number, let's suppose otherwise. So let's suppose for the sake of contradiction that square root of 2 is rational. Okay. And we want to show that there is something wrong if we will accept that square root of 2 is rational. Okay. Now, with this supposition that square root of 2 is rational, ano yung pwede kong sabihin kung totoo nga itong supposition na to? Mary Mitzi, any suggestion? What could be my next line?
Wait lang po, nag-iisip po.
Okay, nag-iisip ka pa. Okay, how about Kiefer?
Sir, ano po?
Yes, go Mary.
Ayun po, pwede po tayong mag-let na parang i-express po siya as ratio of two integers po.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So yeah, dahil ina-assume natin na kunwari, hindi totoo na irrational si square root of 2, so dapat rational siya, right? So kung rational siya, tama si Mary, na kaya ko siyang isulat as a ratio of two integers. Then there exist integers a and b, okay, such that b is not equal to 0 and square root of 2 equals a over b in lowest terms. Okay? So, i-assume ko na kaya ko siyang isulat as a fraction, as a ratio of two integers a and b. Alright? So, kaya lang if-further assume ko na naka-lowest terms na yung a over b. Okay? Kasi kung hindi pa naka-lowest terms si a over b, then pwede kong i-divide si a at saka si b ng common divisor nila para ma-force na lowest term na yung makukuha kong a star over b star. Okay? So kaya pwede ko talagang sabihin na kagad na si a and b could be chosen such that naka-lowest terms na si a at saka si b. Yung a over b. Wala na silang common factor. Alright? And that is perfectly fine. Okay. And then what can I do next? Oh, I have an equation. So baka pwedeng i-multiply ko or square ko both sides. Okay. So square for both sides, I'll get 2 equals a squared over b squared, or that is 2b squared equals a squared. Right? Ano yung pwede kong masabi from this line? Anong ibig sabihin o ano yung pwede kong i-deduce from the statement that 2b squared is equal to a squared? Kita ko si Daniel Noel nagtaas ng kamay pero biglang bumawi. But do you have any guess, Daniel Noel? Typing ka ba, Daniel? Kung typing si Daniel...
Ay, hello.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Daniel.
Nakamute pala ako, sorry. Marami
Okay,
na
no
akong sinabi. Sorry. We can say that a squared is even since it is equal to 2b squared. And we know that b squared is also an integer.
Okay, thank you, Daniel Noel. Anong nickname mo pala, Daniel? Daniel ba?
Yes, it's okay. Daniel is okay po.
Thank you, Daniel. Sana walang ibang Daniel sa klase, no? Para Daniel na lang tatawag ko sa'yo. But anyway, okay, thank you, Daniel. Yeah, that's right. Dahil nalaman natin na si a squared ay equal kay 2b squared, then we can say that a squared is even. All right? And then I can go back to example 31 nga ba yun? Or yung pinrove natin by contrapositive last time. We know that if a squared is even, then it follows that a is also even. All right? And we'll let this simmer. Mukhang eto na yung dead end. Wala na akong... Actually, meron pa ba akong pwedeng gawin? Oh, mukhang meron pa tayong pwedeng gawin. Ang alam ko ay si a is even. Okay? Now, what can I do now? Kasi so far, wala pa akong contradiction, no? Parang lahat is perfectly fine pa. A squared is even, a is even. No contradiction yet, so we move on. Kelvin, anong pwede ko kayang sunod na gawin? Wala pa akong contradiction eh, so hindi pa ako pwedeng tumigil.
Sir, rinig po ba?
Oh yes, Kelvin.
So,
Yeah.
since nasabi na po natin na A is even, pwede po natin siyang i-express as product of 2 and another integer, let's say K. So,
Okay.
pwede po natin siyang isulat as A equals 2K.
All right. Thank you, Kelvin. That's right. So, nakita niyo kung bakit hindi pa ako pwedeng tumigil, no? Kasi wala pang contradiction, right? So, tuloy natin. Sabi nga ni Kevin, kung alam natin na si A even, isulat natin siya as 2K, right? Then I'll use this expression for A here. So 2B squared equals A squared. So it follows that we'll have 2B squared is equal to 2K quantity squared, which is equal to 4K squared. Nag-isip pa ako doon, no? But here we can say that, I can divide both sides by 2 and get b squared equals 2k squared. Okay? And wag pala munang period. Ano yung pwede kong sabihin mula dito sa statement na to? Sophia.
Sir, with that statement din po, masasabi na natin na b squared is an even as well. And then taking this taking b squared as b lang, we could also say na b is even as well.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. That's right. Nakuha na naman natin si b squared ay even. Pero meron tayong theorem na na-prove before na kapag ka si b squared ay even, si b dapat ay even din. And then I say there's a contradiction here. Okay. What is the contradiction? Or dahil tinamad na ba ako kaya sinabi ko na, may contradiction. Pero what is the contradiction? I have seen Christian raise his hand first. Christian Hetomo. Hi, Christian.
Hello, sir. Narinig po ba?
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Ayun. So, ang contradiction po, I think, is we assume po kasi na naka-lowest term na yung A over B, which means that wala silang same factors. But it showed na para silang even, so they must be the same na divisible by 2, which is contradiction.
Okay. Thank you, Christian. Yeah, that's correct. Contradiction siya kasi sinabi na natin na si A over B naka-lowest terms. So ibig sabihin si A at saka si B wala na dapat common factor. And yet, we are saying here that A and B are both even. So parehas silang may factor na 2, which cannot happen because we said by design, yung A over B dapat naka-lowest terms na. And that is a contradiction. Therefore, we will reject our supposition from above and end up with the conclusion that Q is not rational. End of proof. Okay? So sana walang Pythagorean dito kasi na-prove natin na si square root of 2 ay irrational. Ayaw nating mahipasus. But anyway, okay, so that's it. Okay. There's another classic result that is proven by contradiction. And this is actually one of the theorems that made proof by contradiction very famous. There are infinitely many primes. And you'll see, if you can imagine how difficult it is to prove that there are infinitely many prime numbers. Kasi paano mo nga naman ipapakita na infinitely many mga prime numbers? Ang problema natin sa prime numbers, wala tayong formula para sa prime numbers, tama? So, ang mga prime numbers 2, 5, baka may sabi pala mali na 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, and so on. And as you go along, parang napaka-erratic ng behavior. Wala talagang formula para sa mga prime number. Okay? So, na-prove ni, I don't know, si Euclid nga ba yun? Parang si Euclid yung nag-prove na there are infinitely many prime numbers. Kasi ginamit niya yung proof by contradiction, which really made proof by contradiction very famous, because this is something that ancient mathematicians are already trying to solve back then. Tapos, ito si Euclid, napakita niya na, dapat infinitely many yung mga prime numbers kasi hindi siya pwedeng maging finite lang yung number. Magkakaroon ng contradiction. Unfortunately, I don't think I can show you the proof kasi merong mga prerequisite results na kailangan kasi yun yung problema sa proof by contradiction. Dapat marami ka ng alam or dapat marami ka ng possible candidates kung saan manggagaling yung contradiction. Alright? So, dun sa mga BS math dyan, and I think also MST students, you will see the proof of this in Math 103. So, kung yung mga applied math gusto nyo mag-elective ng 103, elementary theory of numbers, you will see there how the infinitude of the prime numbers were proven. Okay? Kasi isa pa ring malaking mystery sa math yung mga prime numbers kasi hanggang ngayon meron pa ring race to get the biggest prime number known or the biggest known prime number. Though alam natin na there are infinitely many primes, so laging may wala tayong upper bound para sa list of prime numbers, pero merong computer search or may contest na palakihan ng prime number na makukuha. So I think there's still a prize kung kayo yung makakapagbigay ng pinakamalaking prime number. Merong previous record. I'm not just that updated sa pinakamalaking prime number known right now. Pero may contest. So, may prize yata yung kapag nataasan nyo yung previous record. So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, maybe we can take a look at, okay, I think you guys can try exercise 33. Paano mapakita or paano to i-prove. Okay. Just let me know if there would be problems if you try exercise 33 on your own. So pakitry na lang siya. And then let's look at example 34, another example by proof by contradiction. Okay. Now let's see. So part of the premise, f of x is the function 2x plus 3 over x plus 2 for any x in R. Mukhang may konting problema yung theorem. for every x in R minus -2. Hindi pwedeng maging -2 si x kasi magzi-zero yung denominator. So pakidagdag siya sa assumption. So let's try to prove that if f of x is 2x plus 3 over x plus 2 for every x in R less the set -2. So ibig lang nitong sabihin sa lahat ng x na hindi equal kay -2, right? Then we want to show that f of x is not equal to 2. Right? So yun yung gusto nating ipakita. Na kung si f ay defined this way, si f of x never magiging equal kay 2. Right? So kung ipoprove natin siya by contradiction, i-suppose natin yung negation ng conclusion. Ano ba yung conclusion? Yung then part. Ang then part ay for every x in R except -2, f of x is not equal to 2. So parang ang translation niya ay ito. For all x in the domain, so ang domain niya ay R less set containing -2 kasi nga hindi pwede maging -2 si x. So for all x except for any real number x except -2, si f of x daw ay hindi pwedeng maging equal kay 2. So ganun pa rin, kahit quantified yung conclusion, gusto natin kunan yung negation. So kung ito yung conclusion, ininegate ko siya ngayon. Okay? So for all, ano nga ba ang negation ng for all? Ang negation ng for all either exists, right? So therefore, ito yung premise, wala tayong babaguhin sa premise. Yung conclusion, babaguhin ko siya ng konti. Ininegate ko siya, alright? Kasi proof by contradiction yung ginagawa natin. So yung for all, naging there exists an x in R less -2, okay? Merong x dun sa domain such that ininegate ko rin yung second part, such that f of x is equal to 2. So yung theorem, sabi niya, kahit ano pang x yung i-plug in mo kay f, hindi ka makakakuha ng sagot na 2. So ang negation niya ay, may isang nag-exist na x na pag pinlog in ko kay f, ang sagot ay 2. Alright? So this is our supposition for the sake of contradiction. Okay? So in other words, we are saying that there is one particular x na pag pinlog in ko kay f, ang sagot ay equal kay 2. So if that is the case, then I'll get that particular value of x, and then this equation must hold. All right? So dahil si f of x ay equal kay 2, si f of x ay equal dito, so si f, pwede kong palitan nito. So that's how I got from this supposition onto this equation. All right? And then we can multiply both sides by x plus 2, and that's valid by the multiplication property of equality. So we get 2x plus 3 equals 2 times 2 times x plus 2. And then we simplify this guy, we get 2x plus 4. Okay? So the equation that we have right now is 2x plus 3 equals 2x plus 4. And once we subtract 2x from both sides, we're getting 3 equals 4, which is a clear contradiction. Ang 3 ay hindi equal kay 4. So if that will happen, if we will accept that there is an x such that f of x is equal to 2, right? So never na magiging equal kay 2 si f of x. And that is actually what is claimed in the theorem. And so that ends the proof. All right, guys. So the idea here is kahit ano pa yung anong klase yung conclusion, kahit quantified yan, kahit simple proposition lang yan. So kailangan nyo siyang negate totally. And that's why we need those previous topics where we taught you how to negate. So kailangan tama yung pagkaka-negate, right? And that's one common pitfall among students in using proof by contradiction. Nagkakaroon ng problema kasi mali yung negation nila. So mali yung negation, and then posible na makahanap ka pa rin ng contradiction. Okay? So yun yung isang disadvantage din ng proof by contradiction. Mahirap i-detect na may mali dun sa proof. Kasi ang hinahanap mo nga something that is wrong. Kung direct proof, tapos nakakita ka ng 3 equals 4, then something must be wrong with your proof. Pero kung sa proof by contradiction, nakaset yung mind mo na naghahanap ako ng mali. Okay, naghahanap ako ng something that is demonstrably false. Alright, yun yung hinahanap ko. So kung nagkamali ka halimbawa ng algebra dun sa isa sa mga steps mo, tapos nakakuha ka ng false equation, alright, sabihin mo, ito yung hinahanap ko na contradiction. So titigil ka na, kampante ka na. Sabihin mo, end of proof kasi meron na akong maling nakuha. And it might be hard to detect na kaya ko lang pala nakuha yung contradiction na yon kasi mali yung algebra ko sa isang step. So that's one disadvantage of proof by contradiction. Mahirap i-spot lalo na kung meron ka na-commit na minute error dun sa proof. Kasi nga posible na yung contradiction mo nanggaling dun sa miscalculation mo at hindi dahil mali yung gusto mong i-prove, right? Or posibleng mali yung negation, or as I mentioned earlier, mahirap siya kasi hindi natin alam kung kailan tayo titigil. Kasi hindi natin alam yung end goal. Alright? But I hope now you have a pretty good idea about proof by contradiction and how to use it, and at least some clue kung kailan siya ginagamit. Alright? The thing is, I'm thinking, sa problem set nyo, kasi ako yung gagawa ng problem set, siguro ay meron akong ipapaprove sa inyo, pero hindi ko sasabihin kung anong method yung kailangan yung gamitin. Right? So if I don't tell you what the method that is supposed to be used, then bahala kayong mag-isip. Direct proof ba yung gagamitin nyo? Proof by contraposition ba yung gagawin nyo? Or proof by contradiction? Sometimes all of them might work, and that's perfectly fine because a proof is never a proof is not necessarily unique. So posible na iba-iba tayo ng mga proof for a certain statement, and that's perfectly fine, right? Kasi nga in math there are many ways on how to skin or to kill a cat. So kanya-kanya tayong klase ng proof, right? So the idea is piliin nyo kung ano yung mas madali, right? And unfortunately, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on how to detect what type of proof is easy for a particular problem. Like kung sinasabi sa mga estudyante ko na kapaan lang yan. I mean, parang instinct lang yung magsasabi na ganito yung proof dapat. Or dapat maggagamit ako ng proof by contradiction. Even for trained mathematicians, it is not always clear on how to go about a proof. Mukhang laging trial and error muna. Ita-try ko muna. Direct proof kaya. Tapos pag hindi ko talaga mapakita using a direct proof, ita-try ko susunod actually ay proof by contradiction. Baka mas madali siyang i-prove by contradiction. Kung hindi ko siya mapakita na proof by contradiction, wala akong mahanap na contradiction, baka naman pwedeng proof by contraposition. Kasi di ba yung proof by contradiction saka proof by contraposition, medyo parehas sila ng, medyo may pagkakahawig yung simula nila. Kasi sa proof by contraposition, ina-assume natin yung not Q, then we try to arrive at not P. Alright? Ito yung gusto nating then show not P. Sa proof by contradiction, ina-assume natin yung not Q at saka si P, then get the contradiction. Contradiction, right? So, halos pareha sila dito, ina-assume si not Q, pero kung hindi ko pa naman ginagamit si P para makahanap ng contradiction, tapos wala akong mahanap ng contradiction, pwede kong baliin yung proof ko into a proof by contraposition. Pwede kong ipakita na si not P magpa-follow from not Q. Alright? So, ito yung dynamic. So, usually tinatry ko muna na direct proof, tapos pag hindi gumana, proof by contradiction. Pag wala akong mahanap na contradiction, pwede kong baliin ng konti yung proof na yung tinatry kong proof by contradiction and try to see, can I show not P coming from not Q? And if so, then that is a proof by contraposition. Okay? So, yeah. I think this is a nice place to stop. Do you guys have any questions? sakto lang pala na time. Siguro kwentuhan tayo for the next 5 minutes if you don't mind. I mean, kwentuhan about the problem set. May date na ba tayong na-set para sa problem set? Or may napag-usapan na ba tayo dyan from last times? Hindi ko matandaan kung may napag-agreehan na tayo. No? Tingnan ko yung course schedule. Kung kailan yung problem set 1. Okay, it says here that the first problem set should be according sa thank you, Innocent. Yeah, according to the course guide, ang first problem set natin dapat papatak ng October 25 to 29. And I guess yung problem set 1.1, ang deadline ay October 27. Okay. So, yan yung deadline ng problem set 1. So that means we should have the first problem set next week. So, yeah. Okay, so ang coverage ng problem set 1 ay hanggang sa methods of proof. Depende kung hanggang saan yung matatapos natin by Friday. Alright? So kung ano yung matatapos natin by Friday, yun yung magiging coverage ng problem set number 1. And let's see, kailan ba pwedeng problem set 1? I was thinking October 25 to 27. Tingin niyo ba matatapos niyo ng October 25 to 27? Let's see. What do you think, guys? Magagawa ba natin yun? Oh, yeah. Nice question, Esther. Tuloy pa rin po ba yung worksheet 5 Saturday at worksheet 6 sa Monday? Okay, so ganito na lang. Yung worksheet 5 tuloy sa Saturday. Okay? So, worksheet 5 tuloy sa Saturday. Yung worksheet 6 sa Monday ay ipopostpone na lang natin. Okay? We'll cancel worksheet 6 is canceled. Okay. To give way for the problem set. So yung problem set will be available on October 25 on Monday. Right? Bakit on? Totoo naman na October 25 by Monday. October 25 Monday, siguro by 8 a.m. Magiging available na siya sa Canvas. So October 25 Monday 8 a.m. Then the deadline would be October 27. Okay. That's what? That's a Wednesday. Siguro 5 p.m. What do you think, guys? 5 p.m. or gusto nyo 12 midnight? Right before midnight. Right before midnight na lang to give you some more time. Okay. So, ang idea ay ilang oras yung problem set? Well, yung Monday, di ba meron kayong 3 hours sa Monday na lab? So, ibig sabihin sa Monday, meron kayong 3 hours to do that. Alright? So, kaya ika-cancel natin yung worksheet 6 sa Monday. So, make sure to devote your Monday, yung lab time nyo sa Monday, at least yung 3 hours na yon para sa paggagawa ng problem set number 1. Okay? And then, meron pa kayong 1 hour para sa lecture. Ika-cancel ko ba ang lecture? Ayokong i-cancel yung lecture kasi masaya yung lecture. Sabay ganun eh, no? At saka, para hindi tayo masyadong mahulit. So, Yeah, I'm thinking about that, Victor. Wag na lang i-cancel yung lecture. Yeah. Wag na lang siguro natin i-cancel yung lecture. So I'll try to make the problem set good for 5 hours. Okay? Para yung 3 hours nyo ng Monday ay yun na yun, 3 hours ng Monday. Tapos isang hours sa Tuesday, tapos isang hours sa Wednesday. So, yeah. Probably good for 5 hours yung problem set. Though hindi nyo naman siya gagawin ng 5 hours lang, no? Kasi pwede nyo siyang gawin ng during your free times on Monday and then also during off hours on Tuesday, Wednesday. Pero I want to be as reasonable as possible kasi para siyang supposedly exam na ginagawa nyo at the time of the at class time. So kaya gusto ko mga good for 5 hours lang siya. So kung good for 5 hours, probably 4 items. So meron ka ng problem set 1.1. So meron tayong problem set 1.2 hanggang 1.5. So total of 5 problems, 10 points each. You already, hopefully you already did 1.1. Tapos ang gagawin nyo na lang ay 4 na items. So devote at least 1 hour for each item. So sa Monday, meron na kagad kayong 3 hours kasi yan lang yung gagawin nyo sa lab. So tapos maghanap na lang kayo ng isa pang oras during that week para magtrabaho for the other problem. But again, you're not limited to 5 hours. Pwede nyo siyang gawin during your free times. Basta ang submission ay October 27, 11:59 p.m. Tapos, yeah. Pero as much as possible, I'll design it so that 5 hours lang yung kakainin sa oras mo. Para 2 hours lang yung kailangan yung hanapin between Monday and Wednesday. All right? So, is that fine? Does that sound good? Ito na yung chance nyo para mag-haggle about the problem set. Kasi once binaba ko tong call, ito na, final na to. Any objections? Any amendments?
Sir,
Oh, yes, Gats.
Yes po, inalis po talaga yung mga answer keys po para maaral po
Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me, Gad. Yeah. Ida-double check ko kung kasi yung answer keys ay inassign ko sa mga lab instructors kung sino yung gumawa ng worksheet, siya supposedly yung gagawa ng problem set. I'll check kung nakapag-submit na sila. Hindi ko pa na-check ulit. Pero yeah, I'll try to have it uploaded, all the problem sets, all the answer keys to worksheets by probably tomorrow afternoon. Okay? I'll try to do it today, but if not, tomorrow afternoon. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you po.
All right, you're welcome. So I think that's it. So no objections, going once, going twice, going thrice. Okay, so that's it. Final na yung details ng problem set. So yeah, take note of that. Kindly plan your week ahead. Kung meron kayong mga sasabay na requirements next week, so simulan nyo na silang gawin today. Yung mga pwede nyo gawin kasi nga magiging busy kayo on the 25th until the 27th for the problem set 1. And the bulk of your scores will be coming from problem set, so make sure you do well here. 19% ng grade nyo bawat isang problem set. So, yeah. Siguro, ang gagawin ko ay ako yung mag-check ng problem set 1.1, saka probably isang proving item mula dun sa 4 na bagong item na i-assign sa Monday. Tapos the rest ay lab instructors nyo na yung mag-check. So siguro hatiin ko yung submission ng problem set. So i-consult ko sa kanila kung ano yung gusto nila. Kung gusto nila na isang file lang yung check nila, or kung gusto nila yung hati-hati like 1.1 hanggang 1.5. Kasi hiwalay ko yung isang problem, ako yung mag-check. Tapos hindi ko alam kung ano yung preferred nila, na isang file lang yung ida-download nila or what. Kasi ako sa Canvas, dun ako nag-check mismo sa Canvas. So hindi ko siya kailangang i-download. Pero we'll figure things out. I'll let you know more on Thursday. And yeah, that's it for us for today. So thank you for coming, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day. And let's meet again on Thursday. Okay? By the way, yung mga nag-recite verbally, please comment your names. Yung mga hindi pa members na nag-recite, please raise your hands. I think Gad nag-recite. Sino pa yung hindi member? Rhea. Thank you. Sino pa? Aside from Gad and Rhea, meron pa bang member ng hindi member ng team na nag-recite verbally? Okay, wala na. All right, thank you guys. So I'll end the call. Bye guys.
Bye, sir. Thank you po.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po,
Ingat
sir.
po.
Thank you po.
Thank you po, sir.
All right. Bye-bye guys.
Thank you.